So here's a passage from Nietzsche's The Gay Science. He says, "One thing is needful, to give style to one's character, a great and rare art. It is practiced by those who survey all the strengths and weaknesses that their nature has to offer, and then fit them together into an artistic plan until each appears as art and reason and even weaknesses delight the eye. Here, a great mass of second nature has been added. There, a piece of first nature has been removed, both times through long practice and daily work at it." Okay, now that piece actually goes on further and gets more complicated and brilliance is added, but that's enough for us to focus. So here is Nietzsche studying the self in Dogen's sense. And as I said, his insights have now altered Western thought, philosophy, psychology, religious thinking for sure, where he says one thing is needful. He doesn't mean to say that only this is necessary. Nietzsche could add dozens more and does in plenty of other places. He doesn't mean to say only this is necessary, but here is one, right? To give style to your character. To give style not in the sense of your wardrobe primarily, or your hairstyle, but to your character. He uses the word character there. In ancient Greek, character is a really interesting word. It goes all the way back. It means a stamp placed on something, like when you stamp something or you engrave something. It's to put a distinct mark on something. So shaping your identity, putting a mark on it through consciously chosen practices. That's what he's talking about, where he says long practice and daily work at it. And Nietzsche calls it an artistic plan. That is, you study the self in as many possible modes as you can and choose purposefully who or what you seek to become. Given your genetic, given your historical inheritance up until now, I mean, nobody starts from scratch, but you lay out what he calls an artistic plan, right? You study the self enough, yourself and selves and selfhood, so that you can see what's at stake in being somebody, being a self, and you begin to shape that. So when he says adding a second nature, let's say my first nature when confronted is to withdraw timidly, or let's say it's to push ahead aggressively and violently, or whatever. But whichever one of those is true, that's just who I am now. But by deciding that I would rather react to situations without fear or without aggression and deal with them in some more effective, more skillful way, then I outline mental behavioral practices, something I actually do, that would gradually shape my mind and my character in some other way. So that's what Nietzsche calls removing a piece of first nature. My first nature is violence. That's just who I am from kidhood onward. I can remove that piece skillfully by daily practice, hard work. It is my nature, but nature isn't permanent, right? So I can change my default move to another one, hopefully a better one. I can change it and alter it through purposeful action. So Nietzsche calls it a great and rare art. Well, indeed, how many people do we know who take it on so self-consciously, so purposefully? But where you do see it, you witness something that's truly awesome, something truly remarkable and compelling, right? You see that in somebody, you say, whoa, that is great. What you witness really is true freedom, not being stuck, not static, not doomed to be whoever I am in whatever negative senses I am, but working with who I am. You can make changes. You can be free of that and become somebody else. Success at that, of course, is very difficult, but Nietzsche has it right, and Zen Buddhists have it right through daily practice. That's how you do it.
Dale, maybe Malik, maybe this one is for you, but well, it's for both of you. But Nietzsche had a pretty strong sense of fatedness, didn't he? He was living in a time where the naturalist way of seeing the world was pretty dominant, and so how do we square this idea that our lives do have limits and are circumscribed by the time we're born and how we're born, and that we do have a somewhat of a shell around us, for better or worse? How do we remove this piece of our first nature, given a belief in fate to whatever extent?
I'm turning to Dale.
Oh, I'm turning to Malik. Damn. Okay, well, both are true, right? That I was fated to be born where I was born, to these parents, and to be raised in the way I was. You know, my parents were fated in some sense. They inherited from their parents certain ways of being, and genetically that you can't change any of that, right? Parts of that are not alterable. So that's your starting point. And Nietzsche's brilliant about that. Buddhists are good with that. Diversity in enlightenment, basically, that you awaken from particular issues in particular ways that are yours. But awaken you can and do if you choose consciously and work towards generating the freedom. We're not free naturally. We have to earn that freedom by recognizing it as a possibility and moving towards it gradually, altering some characteristic behavior of mine, hard to do, but doable. And we now know that, and we now know what the methods are. Nietzsche was at the forefront of recognizing that, although human beings have always recognized that to some extent, right? Zen was great at it. You sit there long enough in meditation, you will see yourself. You can't hide.
So one of the things that I always think about with this part of Nietzsche, there's this constant battle with a thing. He uses the term nihilism in two different ways, and we've talked about it a little bit in other moments. One of them is like feeling like life is meaningless, but the one he's combating, another one he's combating, which I think both operate at the same time and are tied together, is a desire to escape from the conditions of life, meaning being actualized by the myriad things, if we can just stay in the Zen mode, right? So, and what we just were saying, that there's a tendency to want to escape and free yourself from those conditions. That's what freedom means, like to cut off all the things you don't like or the things that affect you and be unaffected. It's pretty common, actually, aspiration politically in the United States, you know. It's got its historical background, you know, as well, obviously. But I think the tradition of freedom that this is tied to sees that as a failure to take up what freedom really is and to take up what life really is, which is the stuff we've been talking about, which is to shape, inform, and deal with in some deep way, to first understand, study, and then to engage with, and then to be involved in the process of transforming that fate, now understood as, you know, being actualized by myriad things. And which is interesting because it can feel a little depressing, I think, if you come from the notion of freedom as being unaffected, that you're going to remain affected. And it also has another feeling, another quality, which is you never get to be free, in quotation marks. You're never done. It's an ongoing, lifelong process. So it changes what you mean by freedom. It requires a certain kind of intensive study and hard work and engagement and practice.
When I daydream, I'm escaping from the conditions that define me. I can even daydream knowing in advance things that are going to happen so that my responses are really smart. And I can daydream myself an unbelievably great athlete, which I am not and never was. And those are like daydreaming heaven, right? Or taking heaven as your goal in life. You're saying the conditions here on earth that I'm living now, those aren't important. What's really important is what I get in heaven, where all the things that are bad are just gone. You don't have to work them away. They're just by definition gone. Or in Buddhism and Hinduism, the idea of rebirth or reincarnation can be kind of an escapist kind of thing where I can say, okay, yeah, I've screwed it up this time around, but there's another one to come. I can escape responsibility by taking it in that sense. But to really study the self, you've got to be grounded in reality, right? Gravity is real. And all these conditions that have defined me and you are real. And here's where you begin.
So two things to add to that, Christoph, to finish off the idea. One is, last time in another video, we discussed my weird discomfort with a totally sensible, a totally helpful idea, which is that you have to go through lows to experience highs, which is just true, like just obviously patently true. But I always feel uncomfortable with it because I think that there's a way we can get into this exact thing that Dale's saying that you were talking about where, and this is what I think is going on in Nietzsche, these certain moments when he has clarity, that engaging with the very difficult and hard things that you wish weren't affecting you, rather than escaping from them, but engaging with them. He says, like knowing them, understanding them, studying them, engaging with them, because I don't know if it makes us smarter. He literally says, I don't know if it makes us smarter, but it makes us deeper. He says you have to be able to find joy, and you can, and you do find like a more refined and different sense of happiness and joy in engaging with your fate, especially when that fate is extraordinarily difficult and unpleasant. And so like rather than like you feel the low and now you're freed from it because you got to feel the high is actually necessarily tied up with this really hard thing you went through. And I think that's a pretty common experience we all have. Like people will say this, I wouldn't give up that terrible thing that happened to me. I wouldn't want it to be gone. I wouldn't want to have like not had happen to me. Like getting through it changed me, made me a better person. We all have had that experience. We know people who said that about things that seem so terrible you wouldn't want them. And I think part of this idea of cultivation of the self and engagement with the self and giving style to your life is to give style even to the things that are terrible. You experience as terrible.
Just yesterday, I had a really rough jiu-jitsu session. And
that sounds bad.
It's bad. It's not pleasant on multiple levels. And my coping mechanism going home was because it's a straight shot to your ego, or it's a straight shot physically, psychologically. It just kind of like pokes at every last thing.
It's your animal survival.
It's
pretty deep.
My first instinct was, it's not pity exactly. It's just a kind of feeling of weakness, I guess, to Nietzsche's point. Like, oh, I'm weak, I was defeated. But I think I quickly pivoted to this feeling that the art of jiu-jitsu is infinite. In that even if, like, what would it mean to, say, to have mastered it and not have these moments of weakness? That's impossible. Like life, what would that even do for me or to me? And so that kind of, I don't know, you could evaluate my coping mechanism, but I kind of felt, in my weariness and defeatedness and weakness, I kind of took a little bit of solace in reframing that experience as having no end. Therefore, I ought to delight in this moment.
Yeah.
Excellent.